Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to Two Gents. Part of Two Gents is Sit in Your Space. And I just happened to come on with Sit in Your Space as a reference to Two Gents podcast or my expression of what's going on in the world. And today we're going to talk about something that's maybe just a little bit different. I always like putting things out there that's just a little bit different than what everybody else is on, because here's what happens when you do what everybody else is doing. You can go anywhere on Facebook and see what everybody else has on there and go with that. But today, I want to go back a little bit and just kind of settle in, because I need you to understand, based on this Gina Hinojosa and James Tallarico election that's in progress in the state of Texas, I want people to understand that even at a national level, it doesn't matter how much money you raise. If you don't put any type of groundwork in effect, you can still lose. You can still lose, because you can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have people interacting within your groundwork, if you're not meeting the people where they're at, you can still lose. That's the reason why I decided to do this show today, because it's going to reference some stuff that we should be taking in accountability right now. The $1 billion myth. Did Kamala raise $1 billion? Did she have a physical $1 billion in her hand to spend for her campaign when she was running? Oh, I know. Some of y'all are gonna say, well, she lost. Why were you talking about it now? Because if we don't understand the concept of her having $1 billion and running on it, how can we expect anything else? Because I heard, and I'm gonna tell you what I read and heard, that in the James Tallarico race and the Gina Hinojosa platform that's here in the state of Texas, that the Republicans are getting ready to dump $10 million in there into that race. But let me be clear about where they dumping this $10 million into. They dumping this $10 million into a Republican governor that has had an ample opportunity to do all the things that he's saying that he's going to do right now. All the promises that he's making right now, he has had ample opportunity to do them. Go back and see who was in charge of the state of Texas last year. Go back and see who was in charge of the state of Texas the year before. Even the year before that one. Tell me he hasn't had enough time to do what he said he wants to do in the future. His past represents his future. So where is his future? Why is he coming up with this now? See, because them bringing in $10 million, it's because they're afraid. And people that are afraid have to start spinning narratives. And the strongest narrative that I want to spin is this. And I don't need you to take it in an offensive way, because if you're human, you understand this. Little, big, grown men should not participate in women's sports. That's their narrative right now. I need you to say that with me. Little, big, and grown women should not participate in grown men should not participate in women's sports. Hold that as a narrative. Hold that as a narrative. I don't care because you feel like a woman today. Can you give birth? Can you give birth? If you can't give birth, you shouldn't be participating in women's sports. And I think that's a narrative that's across both boards. So I had to get that out, because I see where they're going, and I want to go where they're going and meet them right there. And we have to meet them right there too. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to defend being a Democrat. You don't even have to say, look, I stand behind no little man, no big man, no grown man should participate in women's sports. That's all you have to tell them. That's what they're trying to lock you down on. They're forgetting about that criminal that they supported that doesn't have respect for anything or anybody. Let me get back to the subject matter. I'm sorry. I'm going to get this out. I'm going to get that part out over the next couple of weeks. I don't care how I have to do it. We're about 70 some days out for the first time that we can actually vote. And I don't want y'all to wait till the primaries to vote. I need you to vote in the early part, because we need to send a message. And then in the primary elections, we need, in the election cycle, we need to come back. You know, I get it confused. So go with me this. In the early voting, I need you to send a message. On election day, I need you to wrap this thing up so tight that they packing their bags out of wherever they stand. They packing their bags and they leaving. Never to be seen no more. Never to be seen no more. I need you to do that during the early voting process. Let them know that they don't have a chance. Because they're going to run them numbers too. But by the time it's election day, I need them packing out of the governor's office, out of the attorney general, any down ballot. Dan Patrick, they can get a group coupon for their traveling. If they moving back to where they came from, they can get a group coupon or something like that. Let me get into this because I had to touch that because I see the narrative that's going on, and I'm gonna get on that on another show. But stay with me today. You know, this $1 billion number has been floating out there, and you probably heard it. Maybe from a friend, maybe from social media, maybe from a political commentator that comes on the air. Kamala Harris raised $1 billion. It's been repeated so many times that people accept it as facts. Be honest with you. But before I can call it true or false, we need to have a better a question, to ask a better question. Which committees? Which election? And what exactly does raise mean? Because Kamala Harris ran for the president twice. In her 2020 presidential campaign, she raised about $43 million. Not $1 billion, not $500 million, not even close. But 4 years later, the financial picture was completely different. By the end of 2024 election cycle, the presidential committee ultimately operating as Harris for president reported more than $1 billion in total receipts. Yeah, $1 billion. So now we have a problem. The $1 billion number isn't simply made up, but without context. And if you don't have context in what you're saying, none of the rest of it means anything. It can still be misleading. And that's what we're going to examine today, because this episode isn't really about Kamala Harris. It's about something bigger. It's about political numbers become political truth. If you've been here with me for a while, I studied when I was younger. So sometimes when I'm saying something, it's hard to get it out. But bear with me. It's more people out there like me than you probably know. I think I'm doing good. And it's about why we should always check the receipts before repeating the headlines. So I'm gonna ask you to go through this with me. I want you to go through it with me and understand the reason why this is important, because as any candidate, runs for office today, they need money. They may be coming in your email every second of the day, but make sure that your money is going to the place that you want to go to. Research who you're giving your money to, because you could be giving it back into a Democratic Party that's raising funds outside of the state, and it doesn't do anything for the candidates within the state. And that's the reason why I want to kind of break this down. That's the reason why I'm going into more detail about the numbers, so you can understand that you need to research who you're giving your money to. And that's the reason why Kamala Harris, if she raised $1 billion, you need to know where that $1 billion was and where it came from. It's good to say she raised $1 billion, but if I was on the other side of it, you know what I say? She raised $1 billion and she lost. What do you think you can do? See, those kind of questions have to be asked at this particular point in time. Someone hears that a campaign operation raised $1 billion. Then someone else says the candidate raised $1 billion. Another person repeats it. Social media posts and says it. And eventually, the shortened version becomes the version everybody remembers. That's how misinformation can work. Not always through conspiracy, not always through secret plots. Sometimes it happens through repetition. And sometimes the number itself is accurate, while the explanation surrounding it is incomplete. That's an important distinction. You have to understand what they're saying and what happens in the media and how social media uses those sources to promote something. And that same thing can come back and haunt you. We have to ask what that number represents. So let's separate the two timelines so we can be on the same page. Let's separate. Kamala Harris launched her first presidential campaign in 2019. That campaign ended before 2020 Democrats primaries were completed. Federal Election Commission records show that her authorized campaign reported roughly $43 million in total receipts. That's the first number. Now let's move forward 4 years. Let's move forward 4 years. In 2024, Harris became the Democratic presidential nominee after the President Joe Biden ended his election campaign. And this is where things get more complicated. The presidential campaign committee that had been operating for budget for Biden's campaign became Harris for president. That committee already had money. It had existing fundraising and infrastructure put in place when she came into. It had a staff. It had campaign operations. And after Harris became the nominee, enormous amount of additional money came in. By October 24, reports started indicating the Harris campaign and affiliate political committees had collectively raised more than $1 billion since she became the Democratic nominee. And by the end of the election cycle, FEC records report that Harris for president itself has showed more than $1 billion in total receipts. So saying there was no $1 billion number wouldn't tell the whole story. There was. But understanding that number requires context means a whole lot. And my camera is directly in front of me. So I need you to understand that a lot of times I got monitors. I got Instagram here. I'm going to show you where I'm pointing to it. I got Instagram here. I got my monitor for what's going out on my computer here. And I got where my camera goes into my instrumentation here, which is a raw picture over here. Then I got my streaming program way over there. So a lot of times when you see me looking around, I have to make sure that all of those are working, or else I'm just defeating my purpose out here. Here's where the political funding gets confusing. The campaign money doesn't live in one bucket. There are candidates, campaign committees, national party committees, state party organizations, political action committees, and wait, we're going to go further. Super PACs, joint fundraising committees outside spending organizations. Some organizations coordinate directly with campaigns. Others operate independent. So sometimes when you see those negative ads coming out against a campaign, and this is the reason why I'm doing this, because it appears that the Republicans here in Texas are about to do the same thing. It's not that candidate that's attacking that other candidate to make them look weak or whatever they're doing. It's those outside people that's spending money that the candidate has no control over. And you say, well, Ron, how does that tie back into what's going on today? See, when you look at money being spent, our candidate, James Tallarico, the Democratic Party has dumped a lot of money into him to get him to be the number one candidate, to beat Ken Paxton in the state of Texas. I heard Pastor Reagan say the other day, I could have beat Ken Paxton on his record. But see, when you get money involved in it, money doesn't only promote the candidate, money attacks a candidate that's already in place. Now I want you to think about this, and this is where we need to go as a Democratic Party. I said it. I know I said it. But in the state of Texas, I'm a Democrat. Outside of Texas, I'm gonna vote independent. Let me just say it that way. And there's nothing wrong with being that way. But here's the thing that we need to understand. What the Republican Party is talking about, dumping money into the campaigns like Ken Paxton and Governor Abbott. But they're not going to cover their previous 30 years or their previous 30 years in the state of Texas. They're not going to do that. What they're going to do is try to come up with something that's going to be divisive and explosive. And that's the reason why I think we should address that right up front, like I did. You have to address their issues as they put them out. Don't run from them. Address them. But ask them at the end of it, what did they do for the last 30 years since they was in office? What did they do? You talk. What was your action behind it? Did you put anything in it? Oh, wait, I got to go here. Did you put anything that you could take before Texas or give to the governor to veto or let it turn a bill that says that Texas is not participating in that? I'm done. I got to go because I'm going to get caught up and miss 2 points that I'm trying to make at the same time. Some money transferred between authorized committees. Some money comes directly from individual contributors. Bundler money. You'll hear about that later. And some political spending supporting a candidate never enters the candidate's campaign at all. So some of those people, just like you hear about legal fundraising or people raising money, people do a lot of things during the election cycle. Some of that money, if you don't research who it's going to, you're just putting it in somebody's pocket. That's important too. Know who your money is going to. Ask what the candidates should state who they support. And I get texts all the time in my telephone while I'm on the air, because a lot of people, that's the best way they can contact me. If you want to make comments, you can go out there to Facebook, you can go out there to YouTube, you can make them anywhere that you want to, and supposedly my streaming software gets you here. And some political spending supports a candidate, but I'm going to say this again, it never gets to the candidate. So make sure that you know where your money is going to. That's why two people can discuss the same presidential campaign and quote different numbers. They may have They may be measuring two different things. One person may be talking about contributions. The other person may be talking about the total receipts. Another one may be combining affiliate committees. Those are not the same thing. And when those distinctions disappear, political mythology begins. That means that everybody starts lying. Propaganda starts coming at its fullest. And everybody wants to have the truth when nobody wants to go out and research. Nobody wants to go out and read a book or look at the FEC filings and come up with a conclusion from a solid source that they can reference when they make those statements. So the $1 billion question is, did Kamala Harris raise $1 billion? The responsibility answers requires context. I done said that so many times. It requires context. And we done went through a 2020 campaign. Her 24 operation was totally different. The campaign and affiliate committees were reported to have crossed the $1 billion fundraising mark. And the principal campaign committee ultimately reported more than $1 billion in a total receipts. The distinction matters because Kamala never raised $1 billion. Would be too broad of a statement. But saying Kamala personally raised $1 billion can also create the wrong impression. If anybody explains the committee's transfer timeline and fundraising structure behind that number, this is exactly why political numbers need context. See, because it's a lot of stuff that's being said. It's a lot of stuff that's being done. But you have to follow it up with. And here's the one fault that I'm gonna tell you about Kamala's campaign. To this day, we have not had a complete after actions report. And I don't know why. And it has to be by the campaign. It can't be by nobody else. It has to be by the people that took in the money for Kamala to deliver an after action report. And to this day, we're still waiting on one. I call it fairly. I'm saying, I'm just telling you. Sometimes when it comes to money, it works for both ways. How can we demand the Republicans to account for their money if we're not going to demand our own account for their money too? Because before you get back up in front of people, you need to have an after action report of where did that $1 billion go to. That's not against Kamala. That's just facts. The other thing is, even as we enter into this Texas process, and James Tallarico and Jenna Hinojosa, after the election's over with, they need to do an after action report too. Where did their money come from? How did they get there? Part of that needs to come out. That's transparency that we need in government. That's what we need. You know, it's almost like talking about something but not doing it. Ooh-wee. What's the source? We need to start asking, what's the source? What time period are we talking about? Get more specific in what we're asking. Which committee filed the report? Are you talking about contributions, total receipts, transfers, party funding, outside spending? Because federal campaign records, they shouldn't be a secret. They're public. They're documented. They're available through the FEC commission, and anybody that's running for office is going to have to file those FEC reports. If they don't, guess what? They may not can be trusted. We got a president that's sitting in office, didn't even want to disclose his taxes. So I'm just telling you that some things you have to do, whether or not you're Republican or Democrat. They see headlines, they see posts, they hear commentators, they hear the number. Very few stop and ask, what exactly am I looking at? Because you can look at an FEC report and it may not tell you nothing until it's broken down. And that gap between that number and the explanation behind that number is where the informative, where the, I'm going to say it right now because I want to correct that, because that's where the misinformation happens. That's where it thrives. That's where people get to the next campaign and they wonder how come they never got answers on the first time you ran, because now you considering a second term, but you haven't got out of the first part because you have not answered the questions. So if I'm a candidate and I'm standing on stage and I'm running against you, the first thing I'm gonna ask you is, how much of that $1 billion? Where's the after action report? But yet you want to run for the representation of the United States. Right now you're looking. Nothing wrong with looking. James Talarico and Gina Hinojosa is seeking your support. Yeah, I'm going to weave it in every single chance I get. Because I'm a Texan and I know how important it is to turn Texas blue. I really do. That's the reason why I can talk about Kamala Harris and let her mistakes not happen to any of the candidates that I see running for office right now. A number gets repeated enough times, and eventually it becomes the argument. $1 billion, 10 million immigrants, 20 million jobs lost, $1 trillion in spending, a percentage from a poll, a statistic about unemployment. A number sounds a number sounds real, but it might not be real. Numbers feel objective. Numbers feel factual. But the number without context can tell a completely different story. And that's why the responsibility of the citizen requires more than remembering statistics. We have to understand what they measure. What's being measured when you say $1 billion? Who produced them? What period did they cover? And what may have been left out? Because what happens is when you run, just like Gina Hinojosa and James Talarico, they come back after you too for these same facts. And you should be running on transparency, because that's what people need to hear. And the only reason why I'm tying this into Kamala Harris, because it's already happened. And we need to prevent it from happening in the future. We need to stumble before we fall. We need to get active before we get there. We need to be on track. I think I saw 70 days today until we can actually so we can actually vote. And we need to know the numbers that are important up until that date. We need to know when to start, when the last day of registration, and you must be in by that time. We need to know what the procedures are for voting and stay on top of that. Here's why this matters. It isn't defending Kamala Harris, and it isn't attacking Kamala Harris. It's about accountability, and that's our responsibility as citizens and voters. If someone gives us a number, we should be willing to examine it, even when that number supports the other side, because the misinformation doesn't become acceptable because we agree with the conclusions. If we stop checking the sources, who gains the power? If we only verify the information when it comes from people we disagree with, are we really searching for the truth? The cost of misinformation isn't measured by only in clicks, it's measured by confusion. It's measured by distrust, making distrust being a part of whatever they're doing. And that's what the Republican Party is about to do. Their concentration is going to try to destroy the candidates that you've been seeing in front of you, the candidates that's putting in good work, that's going all over the state to tell you who they are. But here's what we need to do. Here's my challenge. Here's my challenge. I'm going to say it again because you need to say it 3 times. Here's my challenge. As voters, as people that believe in Gina Hinojosa and James Tallarico, here's what we're gonna make a difference in this campaign. My challenge is to tell you, go out and at least post 10 articles about Gina Hinojosa and James Tallarico to your page. And let me tell you, it's as simple as point, click that right button, copy, go back to your page and say, what do you want to say at the top, and post it. You don't even have to write commentary in there. Just post at least 10 of them a day. Because believe it or not, a group of us doing that every day is changing the narrative that they're trying to put out. And you can get that information if you start following Gina Hinojosa in Texas. I think it's a Texas coalition of Democrats. There's so many other organizations out there. Start reposting that information. I don't care. If you believe in changing Texas, if you believe that Texas should change, make that your agenda. If you can't go out and drive, if you can't walk the streets, if you can't put a sign in your yard, make that your simple agenda of copying at least 10 things a day and posting it to your social media page. You don't have to comment it. You don't have to do anything on. Just make sure that you post at least 10 items a day to your social media page, because when you post it, it goes out to your friends and everybody else that's on your page. They can see what you're posting. Let's take Facebook and whatever medium that's out there that we can use and help this thing start to roll, because on the other side, they're getting ready to spend $10 million. We need to have our candidates save some money so they can have toward the end of the election. That's the most important part, because that's where the transition takes place. So we need to make sure that we're doing our part. If you can't drive, if you can't walk, if you can't knock doors, if you don't feel comfortable on the telephone, if you don't do any of that, go out there and post every single day. Go out there and post every single day. Use every amount of effort that you have to post something about Gina Hinojosa, something about James Tallarico to your page. That helps. That helps. And anybody that you come into contact with, tell them about Gina Hinojosa and James Tallarico. Because if you don't understand that struggle, you're not even in the battle. Because the people that laid the way for those people, for Gina Hinojosa and James Tallarico today, were named Barbara Jordan. That's one of the names. Mickey Leland. You saw me at the park yesterday. That's one of the names. That's the people who laid down. Governor Ann Richards. See, they got a story too. Representative, the late Sheila Jackson Lee, the late Sylvester Turner. And there's Hispanics out there that have done the same thing, but they don't get the recognition. And here's the thing. We can combine our efforts and get there, but we have to show the people that fought the good fight. People that fought the good fight to help us be where we're at right now. And they don't want you to know that. They want you to sit up there and complain about one another. They're going to intentionally try to suppress the Black and Hispanic vote. They're doing it right now. They're going to intentionally separate the Black and Hispanic vote, because they know that once you get the Black and Hispanic vote together, along with some undecided people, that particular group becomes the majority. See, Chuck Rocha didn't just define who Hispanic voters was. What he did was he reached them where they was at. He reached them where they was at. We need that same type. We need to multiply what Chuck Rocha did times 10. Times 10. It's just that important of election cycle. And I know this thing said about Kamala Harris and the after action reports and all the rest of that. But if I don't continue to fight within this section or this separate area that I'm on, if I don't continue to fight and put out the word, if I don't continue to go up to people on the street and ask them, if I don't continue to go in the barbershop and encourage people to ask to vote for Gina Hinojosa or James Tallarico, I'm not doing my job. Because I want people to understand that I want Texas to turn blue. I want people to know that when I got on blue right now, I don't have to put on a red mega hat. I don't have to tell people who I am. I can wear blue the color and let people know. I'm not afraid that I want to show you. I just want to tell you this. That community that I grew up in, yesterday when I went to that monument, it's Hispanics standing right next to blacks. It's Hispanics staying in that same community where I grew up in. In Fifth Ward, there's Hispanics staying right next to blacks. In Frenchtown, there's Hispanics staying right next to black. In Dallas, there's Hispanics and blacks staying together. In San Antonio, there's Hispanics and blacks staying together. It's more of us than it is of them. It's more of us than it is of them. I need you to understand. I need you to go out and vote. I'm for both candidates, Gina Hinojosa and James Tallarico. But I need more people that's undecided to come on board. I need the Hispanic vote. I need the black vote. I need us to combine our efforts to turn Texas blue. So one day, as I said when I was standing at this statue yesterday, one day we can have a representative that's black. We done already had some. They opened the door for everything that's going on right now in the state of Texas. Please don't let them close it. How can you, let me just say this. How can you vote for a convicted criminal? They did it. Make them own it. Now they're asking you to vote for Attorney General that was impeached. Why? Why? Because here's the thing. Birds of a feather flock together, and they can't deny that they've been together for any period of time. Governor Abbott can't walk away from Ken Paxton. That's his Attorney General. You think if Governor Abbott didn't want him as his Attorney General, that he would remained in office? You think if Dan Patrick didn't want him as the Attorney General, that he wouldn't have remained in office? No, don't let them walk away from that truth. Hold them to that. Hold them to that fact. Hold them to the time that they've been in office. Hold them to. This must be a lie that you telling, because you've been in office this amount of time and you never said anything about it. Now you want to talk about I'm gonna give discounts on this. I'm gonna give discounts on that. No, you had your opportunity to do it. Why didn't you do it then? We have to become a more educated voter. We have to understand that as these people come in our community, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna tell you how far I've came, because you need to understand this. I was totally against Everything that I'm asking you to do right now, except one thing, Gina Hinojosa. But I learned that I had to come on board with James Tallarico because the Democratic Party wanted to put the money into James Tallarico, but they didn't want to support a Gina Hinojosa narrative. But what happened is at the same time while they was putting money into James Tallarico, Gina Hinojosa started gaining ground. And if she started gaining ground, she's there right now. We need to get on board. Don't have nothing to do with anybody else. You got two candidates that's out there. Nobody else can step in and run for them at this particular point in time. Nobody. We have to go with what we got so that one day somebody's daughter or child or somebody that strives to become the next Mickey Leland, Barbara Jordan, that pathway is set in place. We don't care. We don't care how I'm gonna tell you like they probably say it in Freemantown. You put those bricks in River Oaks, the city to pay for them to go down. You'll make their streets smoother. But in Freemantown, what they did, they took and made their own brick roads. They laid them bricks. Citizens laid them bricks. And so most of y'all understand, we have a section called River Oaks. I guess it would be like Bulkhead in Atlanta if I called it correct. But then you have a place like Douglasville, Georgia, and I know it was predominantly white because I used to stay there. But you have a place like Douglasville that's just a small town within the city that's close to the city of Atlanta. I that's the only one I can make an analogy to. But they in Atlanta, they put down bricks for their citizens to go to. The government paid for. But in Douglasville, they had bricks on their street too. As a matter of fact, to tell you the truth of the matter, their bricks lasted longer than the city of Houston bricks, longer than the city of Houston bricks in the city of Freemantown. It's been a battle for a long time. We have to understand what we can do with our information, what we have the ability to do if we just continue on the path. My Hispanic brothers and sisters, my Black brothers and sisters, anybody that's out there that's undecided. I had a lady yesterday that told me that she really hadn't paid attention to politics because when her husband passed away, he was the one that did all the research and everything. She just went and voted. Well, I'm here to tell even those people, Gina Hinojosa and James Tallarico are running for election in the next election cycle, 70 days out. Please register to vote. Get out and do whatever you can. If there's a campaign sign, I need it. And I'm gonna go back to my people before I get off the air because I need those Gina Hinojosa and James Tallarico yard signs made. While you spending money, while you still got funds, because I need to start seeing more of them in the yards. More of them. Don't wait till the last minute and start printing them and then say, "Oh, we need them out there," because that's not. We're not playing politics with Texas. We're actually going on a mission. We're on a mission. I don't care what y'all put into your campaign. Here's what I want you to understand, and I need you to go here first because this is what I've been saying all along. And I don't know if I even have it up, but I want to make sure that if given the opportunity, I need you to understand we're for Texas first. Beyond anything else, whatever can happen, whatever can go on in DC and anywhere else, we are for Texas first. Texas first. You need to remember that slogan. I don't remember where I saved it at, and I'm looking hard because I'm leaning left and right, and I'm looking at my computer, and I told you I got cameras all over, but This particular camera that's right in front of me is where I do my show from. We are Texas first, and I need everybody to understand this ain't just about Ron. This is about Texas first. And I will make you see it behind me. Have you ever looked for your cell phone and you're asking everybody where your cell phone is and you're looking for something and I tell you about me looking at my screens and I'm just searching. You know what I'm searching for? Let me get out of the way. You see that? Texas first. That's what I was looking for. So that just goes to show you. I have to admit when I'm looking for something too. That big star, Texas first. We need to get that right now. One state, one purpose, one people, one future. Texas first. I don't own this, so I'm telling you, as a campaign, if you want to use it, use it. I'm gonna support it. People gonna come together up under it because it has to be about Texas, and you have to get everybody on board. You can't change the narrative because if Texas is first, we going with Gina Hinojosa, we going with James Tallarico, we going with the down ballot within the state of Texas. And if you can get all of those combined up under one roof, why not? And I'm telling you, as I sit here, I don't own it. I made it, but I don't own it. Put it out there. Do whatever you got to do. I don't want to be compensated for it. I don't. I just need you to use it and make sure that we all on the same sheet of music. So when you seen Kamala Harris, a lot of people gave up. But you know what I'm able to do with this? Now, I'm gonna send a narrative to you. See, sometimes you have to play like they play. They probably looked at that thing and said, "Oh no, this is it ain't gonna happen with Kamala Harris." By the time I get through chopping all of this stuff up for the real conversation that we're gonna have, you understand? Because I see them. If you don't believe me, go out there and put something and just put up something on the media out there that's for James Tallarico and Gina Hinojosa and see how many people come in out of the state into your comments. Out of the state. And that just shows you how important Texas is to the southern region, because you know what happens if Texas turns blue? That means there's a possibility for the whole southern part of the United States to turn blue. There has been Republicans so long. I wish when I do my next show, not next show, but when I do the show about what happened and where I went to the park yesterday, I'm not for sure if I'm gonna do it this week, but I'm gonna put it up. I'm gonna let you see a 76-year-old woman running on a pathway that was built around the bayous in the city of Houston in a Black community. Also incorporated in that is that Mickey Leland statue. It's a couple of other places out there I need you to check out. El Franco Lee, the park that's out here. It was built at the farthest edges of Harris County. See, there's a little creek that runs between Brazoria County and Harris County. But that at the edge of that creek is where Harris County line ends and Brazoria County line picks up. Now, at one time, the city of Houston line extended past there. But the city of Houston traded properties with Pearland, and now it doesn't go as far. Just want to share some history, some lessons with you. On the other side of 288 is not, let me just say this. It's still in Brazoria County, but it's not Pearland. The school districts on the other side of 288 are zoned to Alvin. That's all political. But the schools on this side of 288 are zoned to Pearland. Anyway, we're gonna get into that another day, but I need you to understand how the lines are drawn and how things are done, and redistricting of maps happens all the time. Happens all the time. And if you live here in the state of Texas, you need to know that Governor Abbott and his regime, to include his own attorney general, don't let him get out of there. Because every time he says, I'm the governor of Texas, and he comes on your TV and he says, you don't hear him saying, well, my attorney general is Ken Paxton, my lieutenant governor is Dan Patrick. They're all a part of his chain of leadership. They've been there since Rick Perry. Rick Perry. I'm just sharing the information. So don't let them escape on that. I just want to say thank you for your time. I appreciate all that you've done. If you took the time to just listen, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I really do. Thank you. Y'all have a good day. Thank you for your time. I'm getting out of here early. Thank God, thank God, thank God. And I always say that before I get out of here, because without God, we don't exist. We don't have a purpose. And trust me, if God's involved in it, man, we can accomplish all things. All things. Y'all take care. Thank you.